Hello and welcome back to episode 8 of the Welsh Premiership podcast. If you're new here, then remember to go and check out our previous videos and like and subscribe to the channel. Today we're joined by Bridgend forwards coach Alun Wyn Davies. So, Alan, how are you getting on? How's lockdown treated you? And I suppose you've been busy with the business?
It's been interesting, isn't it? It's probably been more interesting for me because I started renovations on my house the week before lockdown. So unfortunately, I was stuck in a ready-made living room in my garage with a 2-year-old. It's been interesting. But from a business perspective, you just got to adapt and evolve, haven't you? I think everyone's doing that at the moment. We didn't lock down because we provide a service to all the local authorities with plastics. So with our recycling centre in Port Talbot. So we've gone all the way through. So it's been interesting, should we say? But as I said, it's interesting is the name of the game in waste management. Unfortunately, it's like the Wild West. But it's not been brilliant. It's been horrendous for a lot of people. But I suppose with all the negativities out there at the moment, I guess you've got to look at the positives, haven't you? Like anything in life.
And Alan, so Bridgend finished 12th last season, but didn't get relegated due to the coronavirus outbreak. But how do you feel season went as a whole?
Absolutely bonkers, if I'm going to be perfectly blunt about it. I've never experienced that before. It was strange. I was supposed to have a year off, and I think it was difficult from the start, really, because I don't think with the disruption that they had there, the coaching group wasn't really sort of set in stone till probably 2 to 3 weeks before pre-season. We didn't sign a player till probably the week of pre-season, and you've got to sort of tip your hat to the guys that didn't look elsewhere during that uncertainty, really. And I think that just feeds off and was a big thing for me to show that the culture there was fantastic. I mean, the majority of them are Bridgend boys, and they stuck together, really. In regards to how the season went, there was 5 games. On 3 of them, I pulled my comms out to shake people's hands because there was no minutes left on the clock. On 5 games, we were winning, and it's bonkers. I think we did Pontypridd twice, where we lost literally the last couple of seconds of the game, where we had control. Aberafan, the first game, we won a scrum penalty and decided to kick for goal with no minutes left on the clock, hit the post. They got to the 22, we give a penalty away, and Aled kicked the goal. So, it's been, to me, in hindsight's a wonderful thing. If we'd sort of won those games, we'd have been sat in 6th. So it's a bit of a crazy season. With regards to how the season was compared to previous years, I don't think you can compare it. It was 16 teams reduced, so it's naturally a cleanse. So potentially the older player or the player potentially, unfortunately, that weren't as at a certain level were sort of fed out, and the better players, say within the 4 teams went out, came back up. So the whole Premiership as a whole, I think, was in a better performance state with individuals within it. An interesting season. It was awkward for us because we tried changing things coming in, as you do. I know I'm down as a forwards coach, but I came in as defence and scrum coach, which is my, I guess, on the tools coaching acumen, really. Is that they are the 2 things I've done for a number of years. So I wanted to come in to change that. Same as Steve and the rest of the guys that came in. I always thought that Bridgend have got a lot of talented players. Before I accepted the role, I look back at the last 2 seasons. I had access to it, so I look back and found that they weren't a million miles away with what they were doing. But the 2 areas that needed potentially strengthening were defence and the scrum. So the big thing I wanted to do when I came in was to implement the scrum culture. which is probably a strange terminology for a lot of people, but I'm a strange guy. I think it's the best part of rugby, unfortunately. But I did feel that we achieved that. We put a philosophy in place to make scrum a weapon, and it showed. Poor Kai Lewis, we lost 2 tight heads within 2 weeks, and Kai had a bar up every week, to the stage where against Aberravon, the first game home, Rhys Force was persuaded. I had 4 sessions to make him a tight head of the Premiership, and it's been interesting, but enjoyable. I don't know, but a lot of lessons learnt, I think the Premiership's in good condition with the number of teams that are in it now. The competition's going to grow from it, but yeah, to answer your question, finishing 12th was never a good start. I appreciate that, but it was still in our hands. We changed things sort of post-Christmas, kicking and screaming, really. We wanted the players to take more accountability. I wanted them to have a voice and do what they want to do. It's just pointless us telling them something they want to do if they're just not going to do it. So we were desperate for them to start having a voice on the pitch. And we changed things before Pontypridd away, again, lost last minute of the game. And the vibe within the group, we played then, the game after that was the last game before lockdown, and it was Command the Quins at home. Again, we lost it at the very last minute of the game, but it was a change. You could feel the environment, you could feel the guys were incentivized because they were making decisions themselves. I just think that's so important, certainly at the Premiership at that level. So, it was a shame that things were taken away from us, the decision, but in hindsight, I think we'll take it.
And obviously, you mentioned the 5 last-minute defeats, but were there any standout performances for yourself as individual performances or team performances?
I think it was the Aberravon, the first game against Aberravon. We hadn't had long with them. We played Doncaster the week before, and we tried bringing in this defensive culture and energy where player-led, and it was a bittersweet pill, really. It's a lot of Aberravon boys that are in Bridgend, or who are Bridgend guys who played a significant amount of time in Aberravon. So I never really understood the connection, really, because it's quite spicy between both of them. It's become a strange environment in regards to there's a bit of spice between them, and probably you don't really see that in the Premiership these days as much, but it massively is. And I think the first 2 defensive sets, with what we tried putting in place in regards to the energy, the noise we were doing, it justifies what you do sometimes, because I still watch it. It's quite sad, really. I still watch a few clips that we put down post-game of the energy levels that they had. And it was, from my perspective, just from a defence perspective, that was that. But then I guess from a scrum perspective was, I think Pontypridd protest that they've got a good scrum, and a lot of other teams who have said the same. I know Cardiff have said, not said that, but Cardiff have historically done that, and we did really well against them. And again, it's a testament to the work that the guys have done and how they've evolved with what we tried putting in place. So unfortunately, guys, you're not going to get the scorer in the corner, or the slick hands midfield. You're going to get, unfortunately, a scrum coach's perspective on it. So for me, it's just the progression of the guys, really. So I couldn't really put a finger on a standout performance now.
And looking towards next year, what's the team's aims?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because we don't know how the landscape is going to look, and what the vehicle in regards to getting out of that landscape is going to look like. I think they've given us 8 weeks, I think. So the start date is going to be the season's going to start back here, and we're going to work backwards for pre-season from that perspective. But from my perspective, it's just progression again. It's just having more time with them and face time with them. it's difficult in the season. It's very reactive. I think I was spoilt for choice with my previous role, where, as you know, from a university perspective, you've got a captive audience, and if you wanted to, you train without getting any money for it, but at an elite professional level, really. You're lifting, you do your skills, and you've got FaceTime probably 6 times a week. And in the Premiership, you get 2 at the best. And I would like to continue that. The ideology of it being have the players need to take control of it. By all means, they need to listen to us, because we see potentially a little bit more when they're on the pitch. But at the end of the day, they feel the game, they feel how training's going, and they have to make those decisions. They have to say, yeah, I like this. And I mean, sometimes they say, I don't really understand why we're doing that. And that's why it's great for the new guys coming in, is that a lot of them are senior players, and we've got really good voices within that Bridgend squad. And hopefully that what we've slowly did post-Christmas is that it's going to engage them more to say, do you know what, this is us now, and fingers crossed we just continue on the. I know it looks in black and white that we ended up in 12th, but the progression throughout the squad, in my opinion, has been significant. And sometimes you do need to take a step backwards to take 2 forward, and fingers crossed that's what we've done. I don't know how the season's going to look, so the only thing I can answer that is just progression in what we do, and continue the on-field culture in the right manner.
And can you talk us through a bit of the recruitment you made, especially up front, because you've re-signed Kieran Martin, Zach O'Driscoll, and you've also brought in Hemi Barnes, Ruben Tucker, and Lee Murphy?
Yeah, it's if I'm being perfectly honest, didn't really have an awful lot of involvement with it. It's probably been the first time in 25 years that I've had no interaction with rugby, and it started off being, wow, this is great, but literally in the last 2 weeks, it's quite sad. I've been itching to get back at it. I think Steve and Ed have been working really hard during this period to get these guys across. I was speaking to Ruben last year when I came in. I know Ruben from his Swans University days, as well as his time with Cardiff and Newport, and he's my cup of tea. He's quite an uncompromising kid, and in regards to what we tried to build there, more the better. It's exactly the same as Zach. Zach, again, is a senior player. His brother was there last year, for the last few years, and the Bridgend boys, and they'll bring this hard-nosed element to it. And so from their perspective, it's great. We unfortunately lost 2 second rows to Pontypridd. Popey and James Little, both great guys, and if to be honest, they were developing really well, and I was sad to see them go, really, especially James and Popey taking a more of a leadership role this year. He performed fantastically, in my opinion. So we needed to bring someone in as a 5. So Kieran ticked a lot of boxes there. He'd been here previously. He's rangy. We've got enough tight deadlocks at the moment. So with Ben Davis and Ben Jones as well. So him coming into that environment, it's just a nice balance, I guess. We've got a few other bits percolating really during this period, but it's been difficult with understanding budgets and what your constraints are going to be going forward. But Hemi as well, obviously he's quite recognisable with this bouffant, isn't he? But he's a senior player. He's played in an environment where, rightly or wrongly, if he's had a voice or if he's not had a voice, it doesn't matter. He brings in he brings his Merthyr background and culture from a winning perspective, because he's won a lot with them. And that can only be a good thing, putting into the already talented pot of guys that we've already got there.
The Premiership has a fair share of its critics in the media, but as someone who coaches in the Premiership, what do you think of the standard? And Do you think it's like undeservedly slated in the media?
Better. I think this year is better. I think it's gone through a really poor 5 years. I think that it's. I don't think it's unfairly been slated, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think it has to be held accountable, and it comes from the top. I think with any, I don't think one hand speaks to the other at the moment. I think it's understanding what you want from the Premiership, what you want from your league structure. Is it just a community game? If so, it has to be treated as a community game. The Premiership has been made a community game by the powers that be, but then you can't have your cake and eat it. It's still then recognised as a performance pathway, which is in regards to the rules and regulations towards it. Like I said before, I do think there was the right decision to, unfortunately, my old club went down. But I do think it was the right thing. I think that was evident this year. You could clearly see that the individuals within it. I think the performances individually were far greater. I do think that when you've got 16 teams and beneath that pyramid structure, your Welsh team, your regions, your Premiership, your Div 1, Div 2, it was a massive disconnection from that perspective. I would even say more so from the Premiership to the regions. So just because maybe 5 years ago, when squads within the regions were bigger, the policies that they had there potentially in place at the time was that if you're not playing on a Saturday and you're not on any sort of monitoring programme, you're put to the Premiership. Do you mean you've got the people like Philo Tilatia and people like that were playing in Swansea if they weren't playing? And I can see why they don't do that from a business perspective and a business model. You don't want your assets going out and getting hurt. But then you're in a catch-22, aren't you? So by doing that, potentially it's affecting the Premiership, the standards within the Premiership, but also as well when you do just drop them out, and a young up-and-coming lad who's playing week in, week out has to be moved to one side. So it has to be communication between, well, from the top three tiers, really, if there is a top three tiers. I do think there has to be a hierarchy within rugby. I think everyone should inspire to go somewhere, even if it's from a club level, playing from your second team, your third team, or playing for your university fifths, wanting to get your university first. It's human nature, isn't it? So I think it is better. I think the press have influenced it brilliantly this year. I think it's been on Scrum 5. A lot more people have watched it, and hopefully it can continue in that manner. So yeah, but maybe just not have Cardiff on every week in, week out on BBC Scrum 5. Maybe that's a good starting point.
Yeah, and do you think regional youngsters benefit from playing in the Premiership? Because obviously over the last few years, Bridgend have had the likes of Davi Cross, Kai Evans, Harry Morgan playing. Do you think they benefit from playing in the Premiership?
Yes or no. It all depends on what they are told to do. Like I said to you before, imagine these guys were playing week in, week out, and imagine that they were put on a separate regional program. You've got to remember these guys are on, they deemed as professional rugby players, paid very little. Imagine these guys were just put out to Bridgend, put out to Swansea, into Cardiff, and they were there to stay for a period and blocks where they're training on a Tuesday, they're training there on a Thursday, and they face fits and they're there on their own merit. Unfortunately, a lot of regions do influence it. We've been very lucky with the relationship we had with the Ospreys, certainly with Gareth Walters last year. It was great, and the exposure of Morgan Strong, Dewi and Kane, all those guys. And I mean, they had minutes. I think that's the key thing here, is that if you look at a regional lad and just clock up how many minutes he's had a season, I think you'd be quite shocked. These guys have to play. Yeah, I understand that they got to be strong, they got to be conditioned and stuff like that. But then I do think you're robbing Peter to pay Paul a little bit there, where you're on one side you're trying to get this specimen to be able to play safely at a certain level, but also has to be exposed. I think you'll see that more going forward. I think regional business plans and modules would have changed during this period. The whole debacle over the bridge with the salary caps, where I wouldn't say loopholes, but the way that a lot of teams do it, which I think is a great incentive actually, is that if you come through the academy, like Jack Noel, for argument's sake, come through the academy and you play for Exeter, he's subsidised by the union. So it does help that. So I do think that people like with Ruddock now coming in now to look after that element of it, he's got massive experiences from being over in Ireland. So I think he understands that this is the way forward, is recruiting from within. It's the same as rugby league. The amount of boys playing and people in the Rhinos and Wigan, they're all like, I'd say like over 50% of them academy boys. Do you mean? So it's, do you mean it just makes sense from my perspective. But then these guys, where are they going to play? I mean, where are these academy guys going to play? They're going to have to go to those regions to be able to play week in, week out. Premiership guys to expose themselves, to say, yeah, he's good enough. We might have made a mistake with him. Let's put him there for another year. Yeah. So it's a tough one, really, and it's a lot of moving parts that we don't know what's going on, but then you can surmise, can't you?
Coach, and you've also played in the Premiership with the likes of Neath and Swansea. What are some of your favourite memories from your playing days?
Oh, I was going back a bit. I think it was playing for my home club. I went away to play over the bridge, and I came back then to play with Neath. I loved my time in Swansea and St Helens. Fantastic ground. Probably it's got to be one of the best surfaces in the league, isn't it? But real surface, I don't think. But yeah, it was playing with Neath, and it was unfortunate. That's why I ended my career, really, unfortunately. But yeah, it's during my early days with Neath is that the club achieved a lot. It was the club at the time, winning back-to-back competitions. I think probably the better ones that we did was when the old British Cup was in place, where we were able to go everywhere, and a few cracking stories on the road. But yeah, I unfortunately, I think that element's gone, really. Again, rightfully so, because the clubs had a fund at themselves to have that Anglo-Celtic sort of competition. But I've never been asked that before, really. Yeah, I don't really know. I think I kind of don't miss rugby from that perspective. I spoke to a guy the other day about this, though. It was a strange one. That the only thing I miss, which is very, very strange, is that car crash feeling. I know it sounds daft, is that it wasn't so much the change rooms and the guys after that. I just missed that. Yeah, you felt as if you did something, but maybe I'm just a weirdo. I don't know, but I did genuinely. That's one of the. I helped Ben Davies come back after his. He did his bicep. I think it was against Merthyr at home, 2 games in, and we were doing some collision footwork with him, just his return to play, really. And he asked me, he said, "Why are you smiling?" I said, "Okay, I can't explain it, but it was just that feeling. I woke up, I was in bits the next day, absolutely in pieces." But yeah, I think that's strange. Yeah, don't ever ask me that question again. I couldn't answer it.
And a little bit about your old club, Neath, then, currently in the Championship. There's a lot that can be said about Neath, and maybe we won't delve too deep into it. But do you expect them to be back in the Premiership soon?
I hope so. I hope so. It's a big club, isn't it? But then, unfortunately, with this new restructure, there had to be casualties with it. I think it's been it hasn't been managed well in regards to behind the scenes for a long time. I know the fans look at that from perspective. I think everyone had an opinion on the old chairman that was there, Mike, but then people do have short memories of the amount of money and the amount of effort that he put in over the years. And I had my first contract with him, so I can't really speak badly of him. But I think that it's all businesses go through difficult times, and in the manner that it was put across to what it got quite toxic towards the end, really. And I know myself and a lot of former players did try to distance themselves from it, really. But listen, the club's in a good place. They've consolidated. Patrick's gone back there now, and they're trying. I guess I think that it's always going to be difficult when you've got the likes of Pontypool in the Championship, and to me, I guess when you look at what you should have within the Premiership, and I might be wrong in thinking this, because from a rugby league perspective, you put in franchise bids, and if you've got certain criteria, if you've got certain amount of capital and certain amount of and ambition to go the right way, and it's been heartbreaking to see Pontypool just get pipped to the post every 2 minutes, really, and this virus was another one, wasn't it, really? So it's going to be difficult from that perspective, and likewise, whoever comes down at that stage, they're going to have ambitions to come back up. And if you're playing week out, week in at a certain level, then when you go and then play in the Championship, then you're always going to have that upper hand. But playing the Championship is a different kettle of fish. You've got to have, you can't, I don't think you can be a Premiership rugby team playing a Premiership way in the Championship. It's different. Certainly on certain times you can, but consistently wise, and I think Pontypool have nailed it. And the challenge for them if they do come up is, how do they flick that? How do they change it? And that'll be an interesting watch, really. But in regards to Neath, I really do hope they do. The town deserves it. The club, maybe not so much, but then the town certainly does, and the fans certainly do. And likewise, when hopefully they do come back up, I really, really hope that it's looked after and it gets what it deserves when it does come up and it stays up.
Then, how did moving into the coaching side of the game come about? And is that something you've always wanted to do?
Strange one, really. I coached from. I was coached alongside playing, really. So when I went to, I was coaching the age grade in Ospreys for 5 years. Just looked after the scrum with the 16s and 18s, and then went to a bully got me in with the 18s and then the 20s, and then I just went and followed along that pathway, and then spent 4 great years with the Welsh women, 4 Six Nations and a World Cup in 2014, and was proud to be a part of the change that happened there. And yeah, always done it, really. And if I'm being honest, helped me a lot. I finished because of my Achilles. I know hookers do have them, I think. So and that was tough. I was 32, I think, at the time, and it helped a lot, if I'm being honest. I guess that everyone has a hobby when they retire, or people play golf, or they go and socialise. Rugby became my hobby, I guess, and it's never have been and never will be about finances. It's very much about what I can do to help. Alongside that, my time at Cardiff University was exactly the same. It was actually a full-time role, but I had a business at home, so I tried to balance that, as well as I was trying to build something there with limited resources. Really, it's been difficult, but from a coaching perspective, it's a love-hate relationship. I guess I could easily say, that's enough now. And then I know within a couple of months I'm going to miss it. And then I'm going to try and, I'll help out there if you want to help out there. So at the back end of Cardiff University, I was planning to have time away from it. Certainly that was hard, if I'm being honest, balancing both. And from a emotional perspective, you're drained at the end of the season. People think, you're in a Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I can assure you, even from players' perspective, that isn't the case. Even players in front of their phones, looking on the MyWU from the game. As soon as it's lodged, they're in front of it. They're coding themselves. They're analysing themselves, and then that's what you're doing on Sunday. Sunday's quite a precious day for me, really. It's my only, like, Sunday afternoon is the only time I get off a week, and it's I don't know if it is enjoyable. It's really strange. It's really strange thing to say, but I guess it's something I've got to do. I enjoy it. I think the decision when it was approached me with Bridgend, it was something too good to turn down. And I guess, well, Wales is a very incestuous small place, and I guess if I did take time away, regardless of the success that I had with previous roles, it would be difficult to get back in from a coaching perspective. So it's a constant, relentless journey, unfortunately, and you either got to jump on it and hold on for dear life, or you just dip in and out, and dip in and out would probably make you a lot more frustrated than what you would do with your general day-to-day, really. But yeah.
You had a successful few years coaching Cardiff Uni in the Bucks League. How does the Bucks League compare to the Welsh Premiership in terms of standard?
Yeah, it's apples and pears, and you can't really compare it. It depends what Bucks League you're looking at. I think you look at the Super Rugby, which we got promoted into. We knew it was going to be tough because of the resources and the depth that we had, and you are going against the Harpies of the world and the Loughborough of the world, which their budget is like the Christ. They all have GPSs on. I mean, and and you do what you can, and that's why it was so exhausting. At the end, you just did whatever you could to be successful. I did an interview, and the guy you spoke about, I quoted Moneyball in a Twitter feed about, because we'd beaten Loughborough home and away up there, and the guys played terrifically well up there. Really, like a standout performance, really, and it was beautiful to watch, if you're honest, because everything you did in regards to the freedom of the guys of what they wanted to do and play. And we challenged the guys to get just 4 tries. That's all we wanted to do, 4 tries and next job from there. And we did that within the first 35 minutes. And I got interviewed after, and he said, I caught Moneyball. I said, well, actually, I'm on the hunt for rugby balls now. So if you see one and you see me running off with one, it's because literally that's the state we were in. Stuart Vanstone was our director of sport, and his support was fantastic, but it wasn't a financial support. It was very much just him there as a bloke. He was a great guy and still is a great guy. And to create the program that we did there was testament to everyone who just pitched in, like from SV, David Lakin, and the S&C, Tom Dickens, and then Alan Flowers, who's there now as director of rugby. Like, with USW, it's you just got to muck in, haven't you? That's how it goes. But in answer to the question there, I think the skill level is up there. I think that if you put individual guys, sort of second, third year plus, I think their transition with the Premiership would be quite smooth. Physicality element of it is totally different. I think you've got the people like the Cardiff Met, the Harpies of the world, where conditioning for them is their bread and butter, and you've got that element. You've got that opportunity to do it with them. It's a bit difficult with Cardiff University. It's a Russell Group university. You've got guys there who are changing the world, doctors and physicists, and then it's me shouting at them, "Come on, why aren't you?" Do you mean? Well, I mean, it's difficult from that. So that's the challenges you've got from that perspective. But those guys, they've got a fine balance of enjoying university, which you should definitely do, and being an elite rugby player. And we're quite fortunate, like our back rows in Alex Everett is in Cardiff RFC, and he's absolutely smashing the place. We're fortunate to get Carrie Davis, my Lucid from 2 years ago, come into Bridgend this year. That hasn't been announced yet with Bridgend, but he's a Tondi boy, and he's from the area. But I think the way it is continuing and going, I think the RFU are supporting it and they see it as a pathway. They really do. It's just a shame that the WRU just do not look at it from that perspective. But I can appreciate why, because the balance of 50% of students in Cardiff Met are non-English. I dare say it's higher in Cardiff University. Swansea's probably the same as well. So, but I think it's just been a little bit narrow-minded, where if you do support it, well, like we tried supporting Cardiff Blues. They had two guys, Owen Lane, something like that. He went to Loughborough. Some guys want to leave home, mind. Some guys want to go away to study. But we tried really hard to keep him to stay, because the Blues wanted to keep him in there. It's the same with Thomas, the centre. I'm awful with names, guys. Sorry.
Ben
Thomas, yeah. Again, something we worked hard to keep in there. And sometimes when they offered full scholarships in places like Loughborough, Durham, Northumbria, places like that, you can't cope with that. Or what can you offer? Free gym membership? It's difficult. So if the finances are available, it's a development hub, and like an elite development hub away from academies. And I think the Ospreys are doing really well with Swansea, and I think Swansea are going to just keep on improving, and they're going to become a monster, because they are literally entwined now. I think they suggested they were over the years, but they really weren't. Now that they are entrenched with them, it would be exciting to see where that goes, and can those guys playing in backs then, like you said, Adam, can they make the grade in this new Premiership structure? It'd be interesting to see.
Right then, that's the end of episode 8 now. Cheers for coming on, Al.
Thanks, boys.
Been cracking. Remember to go and like and subscribe to the channel, and follow us on Twitter at WelshPremPod for more updates on later episodes. Goodbye.